Well, I decided to show you my feet because my hair is such a mess. Oh, I didn't comb it this morning. Looks like a big bramble bush. Um, what was this about? Oh, I've disconnected the electric circuit, the voltage divider sleep circuit, in my bed, and I've only allowed my connection to the earth ground through my other device, which is two floor flanges wound with wire to make them look like transformers that, create a closed loop, and they have two diodes, and they are meant to enhance the communication between the earth ground and my earthing pillowcase. But I have not allowed the connection of my here, I'll give you a picture of that. I've disconnected the sleep circuit that had the battery, the 1.5 volt battery, and 150 microvolts and 150 nanoamps supplied to negatively to the feet and positively to the head, because I realized it's only necessary when I'm sick to pass electricity through the body, and either use that output or more severely, if I really get sick, of half a volt and 10 microamps. That's, I think, my safe limit for because it's any more than that, I actually get a headache. That's only if I have a severe fever, and nausea, really sick. Like when I popped open a tumor with the help of cesium chloride and spilled out all its pathological contents into the body. And I only spent a few days on that severe circuit, and then I spent maybe a week or so on the milder circuit. And then I realized, no, wait a second, I don't need this anymore. I do need to keep up bathing in silver hydroperoxide with MSM and potassium chloride now because it's the summer months. Epsom salt. No turpentine. I got tired of the double burning action of turpentine and cayenne pepper. I just retained the 90,000 heat units of cayenne pepper. Because it is good to burn the balls once in a while, because that's what the cayenne pepper does. It seems to be good for, is burn the scrotum. No, it does more than that. It shifts consciousness. What else? Cesium chloride in the bath, a mere drop in the bath to, prevent skin cancers or maybe internal cancers, when it gets absorbed. And then, of course, the silver hydroperoxide. That bath is good enough. I don't bathe every day because I don't sweat enough to get dirty enough to want to shower or bathe every day. And if I want a soap shower, I take a soap shower, separately, not on the same day as the bath. But that's enough to keep me healthy. And then, put attention on what do I don't eat. Well, I'm realizing with this kind of warm weather, I don't need grain. In fact, it contributes to my nervous anxiety. So I bought a huge 50-pound bag of ground flaxseed meal. Not organic, not golden. I had to get the cheapest, so it was like $2.50 a pound. And it's awesome stuff because it's neutral and it's lightweight. So it's kind of like a nut or a seed, but it's kind of like a grain because it's a filler. But it's very low in fats, so what I'm thinking now is I miss not having coconut butter. I ran out of coconut butter this morning. But I can make a cereal out of flaxseed and water and put a little sweetener in it like sugar and have some dried fruit and some coconut butter, and it's awesome. What else? Oh yeah, carob powder. I'll put carob powder mixed in with the ground flaxseed meal. It's an awesome meal. It's like phenomenal. Truly phenomenal. I know Gandhi spoke highly of it, but I never thought much of it. I do now. I don't know why. I guess I've grown into it. And I cooked some black beans yesterday, which were pretty good. I don't know if I'll keep that up, but I've always felt that I was never taught properly how to be a vegetarian by non-vegetarian parents or mother who wanted to push meat on me after she left my vegetarian father. So, and my grandmother didn't really accentuate beans in our diet, and yet beans are pretty cool. Black beans, simmered for a couple hours, they're really cool stuff. Very Russian, but God, I don't know why she didn't do it, my grandmother or my mother. They just went to meat. If they should have done anything, I would have preferred they would have done fish, thrown it in my direction, but they didn't do that. So now that I'm a vegetarian, I appreciate the beans, but I've never eaten them adequately enough. I'm always eating grains, and I think I've contributed to throwing my whole physiology of the doshas, Ayurvedic doshas, out of balance because of the high phosphorus content of grain. Most monocot grains are high in phosphorus, and there is acid forming, particularly wheat. And trying to find an alkaline grain is a waste of time because all it is carbs, and beans is complex carbs, even better than starch, dry starch from grain, because it's already wet, it's already broken down. It's not a starch so much as a kind of midway between starch and sugar, the beans, in its position. So it's a lot easier to digest, but it is depressing. Without grains, without the anxiety or stimulus, I should say, the provoking feature of grains to contribute to the psychology, well, it just takes a little short walk outside to freshen up the body and get out of the depression in the morning. And so beans are not bad. I mean, Daniel in the book of Daniel in the Bible spoke highly of pulses. So I thought I'd try going on a diet of pulses, but it was very depressing back in the 80s. What is that, 35 years ago? But I didn't know about flaxseed at the time to add in there to serve as a substitute reference for grains and a lighter version of nuts and seeds. But combined with coconut oil, it's perfect. Coconut oil and flaxseed, it's like a perfect substitute for nuts and seeds. I don't know why. There's something about it that's just utterly simplistically perfect. Lightweight, gets the point across, it's greasy, and it's not like your starchy seeds or beans. Anyway, I may still try, cooking quinoa, but I was never big a fan of it. I thought, well, gee, this is a waste of time. I can't chew it with my bad teeth, so what am I eating it for if I can't chew it? It'll pass through me fermented for the most part, but not really chewed up for digestive purposes. That's why I try to buy everything pre-ground. And carob powder is a source of calories too, and it is a legume, just a little different than beans, a little higher sugar content. And it kills E. coli, and has tannic acid, which is good against cancer. So carob powder is a really cool thing too, and it's slightly sweet. It has a nice flavor, and it's rich in potassium. I don't know why I thought, I don't know, I guess I was into stimulating myself, but in the course of doing so, I've aggravated myself. So all the cheeses and yogurt, dairy products, and eggs, even, oh my God, eggs are so heavy and very stimulating. Fish is different, though. Fish is stimulating, but it's a whole transition of consciousness. It's so different. I'm just not into it. I don't know. So I'm into eating lightly. And flax seems to be a good idea, and coconut oil, and possibly beans as a stabilizing influence. Anyway, I don't need the sleep circuit unless I'm sick. And I'm usually not sick. It's rare that I ever get sick. And I had the thought when I woke up one morning that I might develop inside of me a heart murmur if I keep using it for extended periods of time, like years. Because it's really not necessary except to service two functions: regeneration, which I'm already getting from the bath, and killing off pathogens, according to the research of Colley and Lyman that has been publicly posted. The rare documentation, a copy of that documentation, over at educate-yourself, educate-yourself.org/B, the letter B as in boy, which stands for blood, and the letter E as in Edward to stand for electrification, blood electrification. It's a beautiful treatise on how simple DC current can weaken pathogens, including viruses and retroviruses, shut down their ability to replicate, such as HIV, so that the body's immune system can get rid of the HIV retrovirus in 5 months' time just by using simple electricity to pass through the bloodstream to arrest the ability of viruses and retroviruses, the protein coating that covers the virus, from injecting its RNA, I think it is, contents into the host cell to make copies of itself. It's so simple. Viruses can't get immune, can't build up an immunity to electricity. And it doesn't have to be AC. It could be, but it doesn't have to be. AC is very disruptive to the physiology. It doesn't have to be pulse DC. It can be continuous, and it doesn't have to be strong. Any strength of DC, except I do find that, the contribution that Robert Otto Becker makes in his book, The Body Electric, is regeneration is a window. Too much is no good for the body, and too little doesn't do any good. And when it comes to Colley and Lyman, I think the same applies. So I think the values that Dr. Becker provides are the correct values to use. Colley and Lyman, the documentation over at Educate Yourself, doesn't give us what values to use. It just says use anything. But I don't think that's entirely correct. So the window that Dr. Becker gives us, not to be confused with Bob Beck, this is Becker. His window is keep the voltage under a volt, and the window of amperage is between nanoamps and like 100 or 200 nanoamps and 1 or 2 microamps, which is a very narrow window when you think about it. It's really 10 to 1. 100 nanoamps and 1 microamp is a 10 to 1 ratio when you think about it. But anywho, that's the window of amperage. And then the voltage, I find actually it's better. It is good to keep it under a volt, not at a volt. Under doesn't mean at, but half a volt maximum, which is 500 millivolts. But actually, it's more comfortable to keep it down at 100 microvolts for any sustained length of time. But beyond what's needed when you're sick, you don't need it. And then just use grounding to ground the body, and silver bathing with hydrogen peroxide, silver hydroperoxide. So that's my feelings on the sleep circuit. It's good in moderation, but the silver bathing, any amount you want. I mean, it's really up to you how often you want to stick your body in a bathtub of water and let it sit there for an hour or two, and it's really entirely up to you. You want to do it 3 times a day, every day? That's fine with me. I don't, there's nothing wrong with it. It's totally harmless in terms of any kind of caveat. I think it's the cayenne pepper that really helps make it harmless, and the fact that I also take cayenne capsules with every meal, more or less, because silver does need cayenne. The physiology needs cayenne to help it process silver once the silver gets into the body. But getting it into the body is the hard part, and that's where the hydrogen peroxide comes into play, making it very easy to get silver into the body and keep it in the body, in circulating in a soluble state, in a state in which it can dissolve in body fluids, and stay dissolved in body fluids, provided the silver stays oxidized. The MSM helps stabilize that oxidized state to some degree, and help the body metabolize that oxidized silver. The minerals help alkalize the body because regeneration is going to acidify the body, so you need alkalinity from minerals. And I choose potassium chloride in the summertime. In the winter, I'll use sodium chloride. But regardless, I'll use magnesium sulfate throughout the year, but only in small amount. And even the potassium chloride, only in a small amount, because it's very alkalizing. The MSM in a very large quantity, 3 cups in the bath, or more, whatever I can afford to put in. The cesium chloride, just a trace amount. It's just there as a trace, because it does take the body a considerable amount of time, months, to get rid of it from out of the body. That's why it's able to kill cancer, because the cancer starves. of sugar because it can't absorb potassium. And that's really it. It's really the bath is really it. It's the most effective way to stay healthy is a bath in soluble silver, metabolizable silver. It's the safest way to stay healthy. But this past time I got sick, I wasn't taking baths, and I wasn't taking cesium either. So it's been a long time since I took cesium. So when I took it, didn't take much, and boy, did I get sick, because I had absorbed some coolant from a neighbor's car, very unbeknownst to myself, because I was spaced out. I couldn't smell what I was inhaling until I had their fish sandwich, their tuna sandwich they gave me, and it grounded me, and then I could smell. What's that smell in that? Where's it coming from? Oh, it's coming from the trunk of the car? What is this? Coolant? It's rolling around in the back of the... And the trunk is totally open. It's a Prius. It's totally open to the passenger cabin area of the car. And I inhaled all this stuff. So I knew I was going to come down with something, cancerous kind of something within a matter of months. And I did. My immune system got shot, and it told me when my sprained ankle didn't heal, I needed to take cesium because I probably had developed a tumor. And sure enough, it popped open in about 4 days. 1 drop a day of cesium chloride, saturated, liquid cesium chloride saturated with MSM. You have to add MSM. Don't worry about the potassium. We get plenty of potassium in our food. They're ridiculous about worrying about potassium. I guess if you got a bad heart, But I don't have a bad heart. My grandmother had a bad heart, but I didn't inherit that from her. So I don't have to worry about a bad heart. I have to worry about a bad liver, bad pancreas. I eat potassium-rich foods. I'm a vegetarian, for Christ's sake. It's not like I'm a meat eater or something. So there's plenty of potassium in foods when you're a vegetarian, especially when you're a vegan. Then you really go for the potassium. Fruit, fruit vegetables like squashes, avocado, Anywho, but MSM is a different matter. That you cannot get from food, and it's a very good item of interest. And silver, oxidized silver, where can you get that from food? You can't. So we make up the difference for what we can't get in our diet by bathing in a specialized solution of various ingredients. And cayenne pepper through the skin is ultimately the best way to take cayenne pepper, but in my case, I need it both ways. I need it so badly that, because I don't want strokes. That's the last thing I want. That's one thing my grandmother had that I did inherit from her, is the tendency towards strokes. So cayenne is a must. Any which way I can get it into me. So that's my update on Sleep Circuit. It's a good thing in moderation. There you go.